course, look, the Cowboys cannot allow the season to start without making sure they make some waves. And it was really all off season. Well, maybe not all off season. I should say maybe for the last month. Micah Parsons came out about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and essentially said, look, it's not working. I would like to be traded. And myself, I kind of thought, okay, this is negotiations. We even saw it in Cincinnati. We saw it in Washington. Terry McLaurin signs with the Commanders after the holdout. Aiden Hutchinson gets a raise, but not a long-term extension. So I guess everyone's happy there. Maybe, but anyways, I thought we were going to go that way. But last week we get the news. Jerry Jones pulls the trigger, 2 first-round picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark heading to Dallas for Micah Parsons, a 26-year-old Micah Parsons. Now, I will put a little caveat on there. Apparently, Micah Parsons dealing with a little bit of a back issue, dealing possible epidural this week, I should say. But look, obviously the Packers aren't terribly worried about it, or else they wouldn't have made this trade. But just wanted to throw that out there. Raider Jim, your thoughts on, I would say the biggest defensive trade since, I hate to bring it up, but Khalil Mack going to,
Oh, yeah.
That's the best parallel I can think of. But your thoughts, Raider Jim.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, you hit on the point that I was going to start with, and that is, I don't know if this is a good move for anybody. I appreciate Micah Parsons. I think he's great. If you told me he was going to be going over to the Las Vegas Raiders, I'd have probably been a little bit excited about it until you find out he has to pass a physical, which is not a problem. Everybody has to pass the physical, but he has an injured back. That's an integral part of any human being, let alone a guy that's going to go out there and get banged around the way these linemen do, or any player gets banged around. And I don't know, I don't see him making 5-6 games before he's not going to be able to play for Green Bay. You used the word epidural, and boy, if that's the case, I don't want that. I don't want a needle in my spine, and then you're not going to get me to go out there and get bounced around by a bunch of 300-pound guys. So I think all in all, this is just not, it's big, but it's kind of like, it makes you go, come on. There was an article today, and unfortunately I didn't have time to read it before we hit record here, but it is an article by Jerry Jones explaining why the Cowboys for several years have just not hired a general manager. Jerry, we all know why. You would not entertain having a GM telling you, "Butt out." So, and yeah, I got to go back and read that. But 2024, the Cowboys lost Dak, for a good part of the season. 2024, the defense for the Cowboys was not that good, greatly underperformed. And now they're going to go back in and they don't have Micah Parsons. That's bad. They do have a lot of defensive ends, but who knows how good that they're really going to be. They've got Dante Fowler, Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealon, James Houston, and they've got this rookie, Donovan Ezeraku, but he's unproven. Nobody knows. So what they're relying on at this point is old Matt Eberflus has got this. They're going to have to rely on his defense being able to do takeaways to keep them in the games or to keep them closer, maybe even to win. And you can't rely on takeaways in the NFL. It's good when it happens, and it's always a plus for you, but And on the other side of the ball, Clayton Adams, the new offensive coordinator, or the offensive coordinator, he says he's okay. He's not real concerned, but I'll tell you what, they got a kid out there. I think he's going to be the left tackle, Tyler Booker. Good kid, but do you want a rookie protecting the blind side? I don't. That's me personally. They got the wide receivers. The running game is suspect. I kind of compare it to last year's Raiders running game. We got guys that we call running back, and we know when we hand them the ball, their legs are going to be churning. But so very curious to see what's going to happen with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboy Nation is going to be in for another disappointing and long season.
Yeah, it's one of those things. The Cowboys are, I think, in all sports, the closest I could get would be George Steinbrenner when he ran the Yankees. In terms of a lot of these owners, and again, you brought up the GM, and I'll even throw GMs into this, but Jerry Jones, he's almost like the guy who wants the heat. He wants the attention, and I know that's obvious. But in terms of ownership of any professional sport, generally these owners, they might want to be obviously in control, but they don't want to be seen, especially in negative
Yeah.
situations. Um, Jerry Jones is the opposite, and we've seen it with this negotiation. Everything that's come out, Jerry Jones a month ago when training camp started, the biggest question was Micah Parsons. Is he going to sign? And Jerry Jones's quote was, "Well, just because I sign him doesn't mean he's going to play. We made Dak the highest paid quarterback, and he only played 6 games." Like, Jerry, like, no one is saying you are technically wrong, but no one also has a gun to your head. I mean, it's training camp press conference. Say the vanilla answer and move on. But he can't do that. Even like 2 weeks later, he said, "Look, we're a soap opera. If people aren't talking about us, I got to do something to make us talk about." And look, if you want to be the number one or a top 5 Forbes valued franchise, then Jerry Jones is going to get you there. If you want to win Super Bowls and harken back to the early days of the Jerry Jones, he's going to need to essentially fade into the background. And as you said, they need to bring in a general manager, because as much as it's Jerry Jones not wanting to bring a general manager in, I think it's almost even more. I don't think any general manager wants to touch that job at the time football.
Very good point.
Salary. I mean, I'm sure the salary is great, and I'm sure the office is cool. And if it goes well, technically you can put it on your resume, but no one believes you're the person making the calls. And I say all that as an NFL fan. And now, if you'll humor me, it's time for Brandon, the Eagle fan, to give my opinion on this. I want everyone to stop talking badly about the greatest general manager that professional sports have ever seen. We've had 5,000 years of existence as a race, or or not as a race, as a species. And we were so lucky to be born the same time watching the mastermind that is Jerry Jones work his magic. I am so grateful that they decided to pay Dak Prescott and Deron Bland over a 26-year-old generational talent. But Jerry Jones is a genius, and we all just have to tip our cap, pay for the star, watch the Netflix stock, and act accordingly. Personally, I hope Jerry Jones lives for another 150 years. Not just because I am a sympathetic human being, but I want to see this end gloriously. And it might take 150 years for Jerry Jones to win another Super Bowl. But I want to see it, darn it. And as an Eagle fan, I feel like that is very, very big of me. So with that being said, obviously, very, very tongue in cheek, for maybe some of our, if you're listening the first time and you're not familiar with my sarcasm, that's what that was. But anyways,